Hello everyone. So tonight I'm gonna start right back at the basics, and this is going to be an introductory video to JavaScript, and we're going to talk about variables and data types. This is probably the most basic kind of starting place I could think of to start you all out with this language. So what is a variable? A variable is basically a labeled storage unit for some kind of data. The programmer will give the variable a name, which makes it labeled, and then they will assign it some kind of data, which it either holds that data or holds the address of that data. So JavaScript is loosely typed, or what's known as a dynamic language, and what that means is you don't have to basically tell the variable what type of data it's going to receive. It's more flexible. Because some programming languages you have to hard type in what kind of data that variable will hold. JavaScript, being dynamic, does not require that. So like we see here, variables are not directly associated with any kind of specific data type. JavaScript has 6 primitive data types. That is Boolean, Null, Undefined, Number, String, and Symbol, which is a new data type. I think it came out this year, last year. And then a non-primitive data type in JavaScript is like an object. So that's kind of the forefront Cliff Notes knowledge that we're going to be working on here. And down here we're going to get started with a little bit of code. First thing I'm going to show you how to do is it doesn't directly relate to variables, but it's going to be a good way for us to check our variables. And that's called console log. And the console log in JavaScript is how we print something to the screen. So if I just wanted the number 25 and I run it, right here you can see it puts it on the screen. We could do true, or we could do some kind of sentence here. And that's what console log does. It doesn't require the semicolon. It's very good practice to put this semicolon at the end. It's just console.log, open close parentheses. Within that is what you want to print to the screen, and then semicolon. We're going to comment that out. So there's 2 ways to declare a variable in JavaScript. The first is const. Or say const, and then this is where our variable name will go. And then we need to assign it a value. We're just going to say the word value for right now, so we can analyze this. So what a const means is that the data in this variable isn't able to be changed. It's going to stay constant throughout the program. It's set in what it is. It doesn't need to change, and it's a good practice to do that on things that you don't want to change, so it can't accidentally get changed. The other is let, and we're going to say variable 2 is going to equal a number. So let allows this to be changed. So if we use the console log that we just learned, we can actually just type in the variable name, variable 2, and we can see that that's 25. But then down here, we can just type the variable name and let it equal something new. And if we console log that, and the same thing, variable 2. Oh, I see what I did there. Okay. If I assign it correctly. There we go. So you can see we let variable 2 equal 25. We console log that, it's 25, and then we just variable 2 equals 30, and now it's 30. To compare that, if we try to do that with variable name equals new value, assignment to constant variable, type error. So as you can see, we can't do that with a constant, it will preserve this value, whereas let will allow it to change. So I'm actually going to move this down to the bottom. We'll talk to it after we talk about data types. Okay, so first type of data we're going to talk about is a Boolean. So we're going to let bool equal true, let not bool equal false. So these are the only two values that a Boolean can have. They are logical values and just true or false. They'll typically be used for comparison purposes and a lot in control flow, which we'll be talking about in a video coming up in not too long. So next is number, which you've already seen with variable 2, and then you just type the number and the semicolon. Just as much as you want to, so you can see. Oh, don't want that space there. And then next is a string, and what a string is a set of characters that is read as text. So this is going to be where we get a little interesting. So the first one's going to be simple. We're just going to say let string, let str equal new string. So obviously that holds the words new string. So let str2 equal 25. Now see, this and this mean two different things because they're different data types. This is the text representation of 25. This is the numerical value 25. So if you're going to use addition, subtraction, any kind of math, you're going to want it to be a number. Now if you're just displaying text, it can be a string. The next type of data type, constant nothing, just for some switching it up, is null. And what null is it points to a non-existent address in memory. Remember how we said variables hold either the data or the address to the data? This points to an address that doesn't exist, basically. So if we console log nothing, you can see we get null. And then last, we have let undef equal undefined. And this is what you've been seeing up here. Now you could do it like this. And as you can see, it'll be undefined. It's a rather odd thing to do because the easier way is just to say let undef semicolon. As you can see, it computes as undefined. We haven't given it any value or address at all. Whereas null points to something that doesn't exist. This just doesn't have anything. So that's the difference between the 6 primitive variable types. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the 5. I didn't go over symbol where it's newer, but we'll save that for a different video. These are the basic data types that you'll see across programming languages, the exception of number, which is sometimes split into whole numbers and fraction numbers, or integers and floats. But if you care about that, hop over to my Java lessons, and I will be talking about those there. So let's talk about scope a little bit, which is going to be a little bit out of order because we haven't talked about control flow yet. But for all you need to know right now is that variables have a limited amount of scope, which is like what can access them, depending on where they're placed within a block. So if we go let num2 equals 0, and we'll say if true, which is the Boolean. So if something is true, you'll do what's in this block of code. If it's false, you'll do something else. We won't be accessing the else statement because we type directly in true, so it'll always run this. num2 equals 5 console.log num2. So as you can see, if we define the variable outside of the block, we can use it inside this block. Now, if we do the opposite here, if we say if true, let num2 equals 0, and down here we say, I'm just going to shorthand this, num2 plus 5. Num2 is not defined. It doesn't register this as a variable because even though this is true and we went into this block, this variable cannot be accessed outside of it because it was defined inside of it. So that's a little bit of a quick lesson about variables and how to define them, the different types of variables you'll see in JavaScript, and understanding that where you define your variables, also known as like the scope of the variable, is important in programming. So that way you can have, you want it to have access to the places it needs and not necessarily everywhere. Just things to think about as you move forward. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.